Welcome in, everybody. I'm sure that you prefer this over the snowy mess that we had earlier this morning. It was a hard decision to make because we really wanted to be out in front of the beautiful mural when we had this presentation today. On behalf of the Earlville Community Historical Society, I want to welcome you to the dedication. My name is Chris Goodbread. I'm part of the mural committee and also the treasurer for the organization. While the mission of the Historical Society is to educate and preserve the history of Earlville, we also want to be an active part in giving back to the community, especially the rich history and the wonderful memories that we all have growing up here. And we kind of feel that this project accomplished both of those things. The suggestion of a mural in the location that it's in was brought forth several years ago by one of our members, Larry Molly. Larry, raise your hand. But as you can see, it didn't happen overnight. Why? Well, for one thing, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. We had no idea where to start. It seemed very overwhelming. We weren't sure how much time and manpower it would take, and a lot of times that's a challenge for us here. And of course, the high cost of the project. We've had very, very generous donations in the past, and we needed to be good stewards of that money. However, our main building still needed air conditioning and a new furnace. The agricultural shed next to us needed to have the rotting boards and the facade replaced, and those improvements had to come first. And frankly, the project just seemed way overwhelming for our little bitty group here. Then a year and a half ago at our local car show, Tom Fox walked into the museum and introduced himself as one of the owners of what most of us remember as the Khalil building on Ottawa Street. He was very interested as he had gone through the building and what the history was, what kind of businesses were there before. And during our conversation, we learned that he and his brother Kevin also owned the building at 139 West Railroad Street. So we asked if he would consider having a mural on the side of that building. And I can tell you he didn't hesitate. He said he'd always thought that that was a great place for a mural. The west side of that building had been left bare and exposed after the other buildings were torn down in 1980 to make way for the new bank parking lot. And so that conversation really got the ball rolling. Tom's wife, Michelle, is here today. Michelle, would you stand up? So she's representing Tom and Kevin today, and we thank them for allowing us to do this with their building. We brought the idea to our board, who fully supported the project, and through our newsletter and our Facebook posts, we started to ask for ideas, and then also for volunteers for the committee. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to those who volunteered for the committee. Karen Wold, Karen's back in the back there, Jane Bauer, Matt Johnson, I don't know if Matt's here, Anna Swenson, and myself. There were many, many great suggestions. The hardest part of our process was determining which ones to include. We wanted the mural to reflect our history, we wanted it to appeal to all ages, and have elements that people could still relate to today. You'll find a summary of why each of those scenes were chosen in the program that you have. So the committee began to research and interview different muralists. Eulojio Ortega was a clear choice. Not only was he a very talented muralist, which we could tell by looking at his website, but he also had the experience that we needed to guide us through the process. And on top of that, he was a really nice guy. If that wasn't enough, he also has ties to Earlville through his family. His wife, Jessica, is the daughter of Gary and Chrisanne Malley Forsyth, and the granddaughter of the late Jim and Joe Malley. It seems like it was just meant to be. Throughout the process, Joe would come and show us different scenarios, but as a committee, we were very anxious to see the final design. And each time we asked him, he'd say, "I'm still working on it." I have to admit, we were a little worried, but his reply was usually, "Trust me, it'll even be better than what you've imagined." And you were so right, Joe. So much better than we could have ever imagined. The project started just after Labor Day, and the next 60 days were filled with scorching hot temperatures. wind, an invasion of little black midgies that resulted in our artists having to wear a hazmat suit in 90-degree temperatures. And then just like that, it was below freezing. Conditions have been challenging, to say the least. And of all those things, he said that wind is the worst element to work with. So for his last week of work here, we provided him with gale force winds, and I kidded him that the weather element he hadn't seen was snow. Thank goodness he got done. It was so much fun watching the mural unfold every day, watching people drive by and reading the comments that were posted, and listening to the buzz around town. At one point, we were worried that we might be responsible for Earlville's first 5-car pileup on Main Street. At this point, I want to introduce you all to Eulojio, or Joe as we call him, ask him to introduce his family and say a few words about his experience. Joe?
Hello. I'm not used to this. I usually work in solitude and I'm alone with my thoughts all day long. So much so that on occasions I've kind of lost my voice from not speaking to people for days, weeks at a time. So I have a few things to say. My beautiful family's right here, Jessica and Elena, Ezra and Haven, and as well as my in-laws, Gary and Chris Ann. Thank you all for coming so much. So from my perspective, I was first contacted last November 2024 through an email, and it said that Earlville was possibly looking to do a mural, and it piqued my interest, and I told my wife about it, and we thought that might be exciting, especially with her family ties here to Earlville, and she grew up around here. She knows Earlville really well, and so she had a very vested interest in this. I came out and I met with the Historical Society, and the wall was large, and it was going to be quite a project. At that point, I didn't know if the project would go through. I have a lot of meetings, and sometimes the projects just don't materialize. So at that point, I was just tentatively getting excited. As I met with them more, and we came up with some designs, I could tell that this was going to go forward, at which point my wife really stepped up her involvement in giving me suggestions and making sure. She'd say, you got to make sure it has color, right? Things like that, little things. She just wanted to be sure that I was really going to give it my all. So I created over a couple dozen designs, and I was really excited about some of them, but I could tell I was scaring them. They didn't know where I was going with some of my vision, but one of the things that's most important to me when I have a client is understanding their expectations. And so the more I spoke with the committee, the more I understood what they really wanted it to feel like and how important it was for them that the mural encompassed the town's history. So I just allowed myself to be led by my conversations with everybody. And from there, I redefined my suggestions and my designs until we came something that we thought looked pretty good. Now, this is the part where Chris is saying that I made them a little nervous because I had kind of a raw design. This is going to go here, this here, this here. We can agree the drive-in's going to go here, elevator here, the golf course here. We could agree on it, but I did not give them a completely rendered design with all the colors and everything exactly was going to go. And one of the reasons for that, and I really have to sell myself on this, is that sometimes when I create designs, I know that when I begin the mural, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to decide an area maybe needs to be lighter or darker or whatever. So that part of the process made them a little nervous, but I just needed them to trust me a little bit. And I knew that I'm a very tenacious person, and I would keep working until it looked beyond what they could expect. So yes, it was a hard project. It was unseasonably warm. We had some 90-degree days. And I thought I could handle this. I just wore a t-shirt, rolled up my sleeves, and I was sweating, but I could handle it. And then the first tribulation came of the bugs. And before I knew it, I had dozens and dozens of those little bites that just so itchy. At that point, I had to cover myself head to toe, and only eye slits were visible in the 90-degree heat, and they would still crawl in through the mask. Under my face and through my sleeves. I had to tape off my sleeves, between my sleeves and my gloves. and they would crawl up through my pants and bite my ankles, and it was.
He wants a tip.
What's that? Oh yes, that's what it is. And then shortly after that, it got cold, and then it got windy. So we had to work with that. But the thing that kept me going was, as I was doing this, the mural was looking really good, and people were getting really excited. And they would drive by in their vehicles, and I would be up there painting, and I'd hear honk honk, and I'd turn around, and somebody down below would wave in from their truck, and I got more thumbs up than I ever could have dreamed of from people on the sidewalk and in their cars driving by. So that was very encouraging. At that point, I knew that people were loving it. One time I was sitting in the parking lot in the back of my vehicle, just looking at the mural in the shade a little bit, trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And this car, and maybe the person's here, it just drove into the parking lot. And usually people would just drive past me, but this one stopped right in front of me. And I looked up, and she goes, "I just want to thank you." And I was like, and she was very sincere. And I thought that was really sweet. And it kind of embodied what it meant to a lot of people to turn this area that was a little bit dilapidated and a little bit kind of sad. It just, was all gray and crumbly. And it was really starting to turn beautiful. And I could tell that it was changing people's perception of the space, and they were excited about what it was going to be. So I began this mural in the hardest section, which was the top left corner. It was the hardest to reach, and it was the most complicated. Once I got that finished and it was looking good, I felt really good about the mural. I swept from the left side all the way across, and at that point I knew it was going to be really good. And at that point I could have slacked off, and you all still would have been happy with it. But I decided, no, let's keep that same energy. Let's give them what they're paying for, And so I tried to finish strong and not fumble it. One of the things that was exciting to me was the drive in. At one point I had it in, and everybody loved it, and I think they thought I was done with it. And at that point they loved it. But I knew it was still going to get better, because I was going to put the cars in. And I put the cars in, and that was just like the icing on the cake. And that's probably my favorite section, the drive-in. But I love all of it as a whole. So, like I said, I wanted to give Earlville a world-class mural. And one of the things that reassured me about this is one day this couple that said they had been traveling, and they'd like to take the back roads and stop in through towns. And Earlville they'd never been in. And they saw this mural, and they said that they'd been all over, and they'd never seen anything like this mural in any other town. So that made me feel very good, like I'd given you something very special that was yours. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to the Earlville Historical Society. And I want to thank all the generous donors. And I want to thank Terry, videographer. He was my moral support, and he was really fun to chat with. And he'd stop by and we'd chat a little bit. And I would decompress, complain to him a bit. And we had a good time. We even drove to Farm and Fleet one time, and it was fun. And a special thanks to Chris Goodbread, because she was very supportive, made me feel like, just do my best work, and she's behind me. And whenever I needed anything, if I needed anything, she was there. She also provided a lot of little chocolates that she would... I mentioned that I like chocolates one day, and there was a bag of candy, but it only had hard stuff. So the next morning, there were a bunch of little chocolates scattered in there, as if they weren't, if they had been there the whole time. And I ate them, and the next day there were more, and the day after that there were more. So thank you for that, Chris. It didn't go unnoticed. So anyway, as I was finishing the mural, I realized I've really loved working on this thing. As miserable as I was, it was worth it. And I wished it wouldn't end, and that the mural was larger. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss Earlville. You're all very kind, lovely people. I had coffee bought for me on many numerous occasions, and just a lot of encouragement. You have something special here. I see more kids here. I'm from Sandwich, and it's a small town, but I see more people walking and more kids playing out here than I do. And everybody's so friendly. Just walking into Casey's, I had so many people that I didn't know before they even knew I was doing a mural. When I first pulled into town, they would nod at me. They'd hold the door open for me. There's not a lot of that, and Earlville has a lot of that. Anyway, it was a true blessing to get to do this mural for Earlville, and God bless all of you. I pray that it'll just make this a more lovely place, I know that it'll probably fall. It'll lose its novelty. You'll get used to it. But I still think that it'll change the way that Earlville feels in that particular area when you go by it. So thank you very much.
As I look out in the audience, it makes me feel like I'm at the lounge on a Saturday night before the Queen of Hearts was done. So we really appreciate all of you coming and being here today. But Joe and I were talking about the Queen of Hearts, and so I mentioned he ought to go get a ticket, and we were talking about what would you do if you won, and he said, well, how do you know that? Oh, I know. I mentioned I was going to pay him his last payment, and he said, well, how do you know I'm going to finish it up? He said if he won the Queen of Hearts, he was going to not charge us for the murals. I was like, anyway, thanks, Joe. When we started the project, we knew we had enough money in our accounts to cover the expenses, but we also didn't want to leave our accounts so low that we would be unable to support our main mission, which is the museum. And at that time, we decided to put out an invitation for donations to help us offset the cost of the project. And what happened next was unbelievable. You can see evidence of that within your program. While we do not have the final cost of the lift, we feel that your donations will cover 100% of this project. Before we close, I want to acknowledge a few people. Jack Cantlin for his help with the contracts. Terry Brunk, Terry's been our videographer. He does all sorts of things for all sorts of people. Unfortunately, we're some of the people he does things for. And he's been working on a time-lapse of the whole project, which when the presentation is done here, he's going to put up here and just run on a loop so you can watch it. It's pretty amazing. Let's see what else. Oh, City of Earlville employees and police who helped us set up the area, mark off parking spaces as we learned what we really needed. And I don't know if are there any Newmark employees here? Well, shout out to the Newmark employees because they gave up their entire parking lot for more than 2 months for us, and we really do appreciate that. And they were very supportive of the whole project. At least that's what they told me to with my face. So as we come to the end of our presentation, we invite you all to enjoy the food and drink, take the opportunity to meet Joe and his family. We want you, if you've never been here before especially, to visit some of the displays. We have 2 floors here. The way to get to the second floor is back here. I'd love to tell you that we have a chairlift, but a battery went out of our chairlift this week, and so we don't have that availability. And then right next door is an agricultural shed. Let's see, what else was I going to say about that? Oh, okay, so with that, we dedicate this beautiful piece of artwork to the community. Joe, God blessed you with an amazing talent. I don't think you know that, but he blessed you with an amazing talent. The mural has exceeded all of our expectations and has provided such a beautiful addition to our little town.